Hello everyone, my name's Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. So for this video, I'm so excited to talk about this. Warhammer the Old World is coming back. Now, when they dropped this article, I was obviously away from YouTube. I remember seeing it, I was so excited. I was so tempted to come back and make a video then and there, but I was too busy at the time. Now, what I'm going to do for this video is give you a whistle-stop tour of all of the news we've heard so far, give you my thoughts on this, why I think this is one of the best pieces of news ever, what I think this means in terms of Age of Sigmar, and yeah, just basically dive into a little bit of the information we've got so far. So kind of building a picture of what we are hoping to see. So it all started in November 2019, so last year November, when they told us Warhammer the Old World is returning. They really didn't say very much at all, apart from the fact this is years off, okay? Like 3 or more years away. They gave you a bit of a recap of the fact that Archaon destroyed everything, Warhammer Fantasy died, Age of Sigmar begun. They shared a map, I'll be talking more about maps in a moment, and that was pretty much it. I suppose I also found it quite interesting that they really strongly linked the Old World to Age of Sigmar in the same way that the Horus Heresy is linked to 40k, so kind of suggesting right from the offset that this is going to be a Forge World thing. But yeah, we've only had 3 articles. This one here that I'm showing now is the 3rd article, which is kind of the most exciting in a way. I'm going to jump straight into this one and then talk about the maps afterwards. But what I found fascinating is they are starting this off by showing us some people from Kislev. Now, die-hard Warhammer fans are going to hate me for saying this, but when I first looked at this article, I was like, who the hell are the Kislev people? I genuinely couldn't remember this from when I was younger. In fact, let me awkwardly switch over to this camera here. I basically dug out everything that I had left on my shelf from Warhammer Fantasy. This basically was my starting point into Warhammer, especially the Wood Elves. I could not bring myself to get rid of this book. I loved it so much. The artwork, the storylines, everything about it I absolutely loved. What I wanted to talk about more though was actually this catalogue that I found that was still on my shelf from 2005. Somewhere I know I have one from I think 1999 or maybe 2000 as well, but God knows where I put that. But anyway, what's interesting about this catalogue is it's full of all things Warhammer Fantasy, back when the range was still going strong and when you could still walk into your local Games Workshop and find all of this stuff on sale. But we've got the Empire. Like, this is just basically like looking through my childhood. Bretonnia. Oh, look how good some of these models look. But I guess I was surprised they weren't starting with something that was a bit more well-known. Now, I'm not saying that Kislev isn't well-known, but even going back 15 years, I can't find any mention of them in a catalogue, which in itself is kind of strange. Oh, these birds outside are so annoying. But it's kind of strange in itself because I believe the Kislev army book only came out about 2 years, I think, before this catalogue did. Oh, let's all have a moment's silence for the Tomb Kings. I literally just get lost in memory lane looking through this book. But yeah, I'd be interested to try and dig out my even older catalogue to see if I can find a mention of Kislev there. I think they actually date back at least to the very 2nd edition of Warhammer Fantasy. So they really are one of the oldest armies. And in fact, now that I've read this article and I've found out more about them, I'm actually more excited that they're starting with something that I think's a little bit more obscure, rather than just say rebooting the Empire. But here we go, they talk about Kislev. It's a frozen realm to the north of the Empire, the land of the Ice Queens. So it's really taking its inspiration from what I can gather from Russia, with Tsars ruling the land, and it's kind of almost still a little bit feudal, incredibly cold. It sounds like they live very difficult lives and they're very hardy people. But again, I'll talk about the map in a moment because the maps are all really cool. But they show us some of the classic miniatures. We've got the Ungol Horse Archers and the Winged Lancers. The Winged Lancers made the bulk of their army, and then you had the Ungol Horse Archers kind of supporting them. From what I can gather about the Kislevs, is they didn't have the numbers of other armies. They would have these kind of almost groups of villages, basically, or tribes that would kind of come together and support each other as they needed to, and they would adopt these kind of hit-and-run tactics, which would eventually wear down armies that were far bigger than they were, and they'd rely on being immensely immensely skilled, immensely tough, and just knowing their own homeland far better than anyone else ever could. So this is where they show the fact that we are going to get some new models, which in itself is incredibly exciting. We've got the Ice Guard, which are elite fighting formations of warrior women, equally skilled with bow and blade, but this is where they're quite cool. They are also effectively sorcerers. They can channel elemental magic of their realm in a similar manner to their Ice Queen. So interesting, we get another mention of Forge World, so clearly the Forge World team are on board with this. We can talk about the implications of that in a moment, but as for the actual design, I've seen a little bit of criticism where people are saying, oh, they've taken something fancy and they have Age of Sigmarized it. Now, I don't agree with that at all. You have to bear in mind that these models here are at least going to be about 20 years old. They look dated now. Now, don't take that to mean they look bad. They look absolutely amazing. They're classics. I love them. But personally, I absolutely love the design process and the model creation of the Age of Sigmar models. They look so detailed and amazing that, you know, these models are just not going to look the same. They are going to look more, what's the word I'm looking for? Modern, I guess. But this figure here, whilst I'm looking at it, this does not scream Age of Sigmar to me at all. This definitely says to me Warhammer Fantasy. If anything, it almost looks a little bit elven, but there are clearly strong design cues that they've taken from Kislev with the fur, the clothing that's kind of light armor, focusing on sort of mobility and warmth, in perhaps preference to just outright heavy armor, which is not really going to do you much good in Kislev. Then we get to look at some of the weapons, banners, shields, stuff like that. But yeah, this leaves me really excited. Down the bottom here, it mentions some books as well, which is pretty cool. Riders of the Dead by Dan Abnett. As soon as I finish making this video, I'm going to go and download that because his books are phenomenal. I never even thought I could care about 40k because the storyline just didn't really do it for me, but having read some of his books, they are so fantastic that I absolutely fell in love with them. But right, this is what I want to say, okay? The main point of this video, if anything, is that having made my video the other day that was talking about the Lumineth Realm Lords that have been announced, in my head, I was thinking, right, I want this army to be the High Elves of Warhammer Fantasy. But actually, I've totally changed my mind. What I think Age of Sigmar needs to be is exactly what it is. People absolutely love what Age of Sigmar is at the moment. They love the fact that it's its own thing. I was sitting there in that video saying I love the archers, I love the spearmen, I love the cavalry. All of those classic Warhammer Fantasy style units to me stood out the most, and that's because I went into that video thinking I want Warhammer Fantasy models in that army. Whereas a few other people in the comments were saying, actually, I like the hammers and the giant cows. That's like my thing. I prefer the crazy stuff. And actually, I'm starting to come around to that opinion that Age of Sigmar needs to be out there. It needs to be crazy. It needs to maintain that focus on high fantasy. The whole point of Age of Sigmar is that it was the next chapter. It's not trying to repeat old ground, it's trying to be something totally new. It really was about moving away from that Tolkien style fantasy and embracing something a little bit more out there and crazy. I really think that with what we've got going on here, we really are going to have the best of both worlds. We're going to have this really crazy, accessible, amazing Age of Sigmar for the people who love it, like me. I love Age of Sigmar. Hopefully you guys know that by now. But then on top of that, the people who miss Warhammer Fantasy, they want that but with updated amazing models. They want something with more depth, something where they really can deep dive into an absolutely epic background and lore. Then Warhammer Fantasy is going to be the total thing for you, or should I say the old world as it's now going to be called. Now, super quickly, the other article that we saw was the cartography in the Old World article that came a month before the Kislev one. They showed an overall map of the Old World. They showed us that there are going to be new things in there as well, and I take this to be something that's a good thing. They're saying that they want to deep dive into the lore more than they ever had. I'm hoping that this is going to be a case of just expanding on what's already good, rather than trying to change or adapt anything. But again, Forge World artists, so there they are working away on it. Me being me, I had to take the map from the first article, the map from this second one, and start to try and piece together what I'm looking at, because it's been so long since I've been looking at any kind of map of the Old World. But we've got Norsca at the top here. This region here is where Kislev is. Then we've got the Empire below it. Bretonia is over here. We've got the Badlands. When they showed the map of Kislev, it's actually a zoom in of this region here. Because I was trying to get my bearings, I basically took that map, I overlaid it, made it transparent so you can see exactly what they're showing in the article. I then compared that map to an original map from Warhammer Fantasy, and whilst this map is slightly wider than what we're looking at here, it's amazing how faithful and accurate they've been to the source material. You know, it's all there. The frozen sea, the mountains of Norska, we've even got the World's Edge Mountains where all the tribes of orcs and goblins come down and raid Kislev. We've got the boundary line here for the Empire, even down to like Troll Country where all of the trolls are, and the place where I think the ground is really barren and infertile, so nothing really lives or grows there apart from these trolls. The Sea of Claws where the fleets of the Norska raiders come and attack and pillage Kislev. It's all there. It's really cool. Now, I'm super excited about this. I think this is one of the best things that they could have possibly done. I really like to think at the moment that Games Workshop are in a place where they are really trying to listen to what people want, and they're trying to give them exactly that. That's just my personal opinion. But they tried to reboot Warhammer Fantasy. There are a number of people who don't like that, so now they're giving us the best of both worlds. If you love the new thing, of which there are plenty of people who love Age of Sigmar, that's all there for you. If you want an updated new look at Warhammer Fantasy, then the old world should be for you. I'm imagining that, like Horus Heresy, it's all going to be a Forge World release. I know that some of the Horus Heresy books I think looked really in depth and good, and I know that they have some incredibly detailed and amazing models on Forge World. Now, I'm guessing that we are expecting some resin releases. The books that we'll get will probably be absolutely crammed with lore and information. I'm guessing the models are going to be quite expensive. I mean, these 10 models here, £45. That tends to be the case with Forge World and resin. But then I need to be checking out this website more. Look how cool these things look. But yeah, anyway, that I think is it from me today. I will keep you guys updated on how this develops as we get new news. I'm super excited. Keep Age of Sigmar new, keep it fresh, keep it exciting. Don't tamper too much with what Warhammer Fantasy was, but still keep it there, still keep it relevant, still support it, still bring out new models. It sounds to me like a win-win if they get this right. Anyway, leave your comments down below so I know what you guys are thinking about Warhammer the Old World. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys really soon.